Welcome to the Deutschland Masters Racing Club International's current Monday Championship. I'm John Dalton, your lead commentator for this thrilling 5-round series, joined by Callum Kerrigan. This championship celebrates cutting-edge German GT3 machinery from Audi, BMW, Mercedes and Porsche, and the season begins and ends at the iconic Nürburgring. But tonight, join us as we head to Suzuka for what is going to be a rather soggy round 4. A big shout out to Jesse Lee, who's working hard behind the cameras to bring you all of the action, and a warm welcome to our live stewarding team as always. Buckle up, sit back and enjoy the ride, because it's going to be yet another, as you say Callum, banger of a race.
Good afternoon, John. Good afternoon, Jesse, all to our steward team and everyone on YouTube and Twitch. And welcome to what is our penultimate round as we ride on board with Marco Badowski here at a very, very wet Suzuka. Suzuka is often a track in both in real life and in the sim racing where people say it's most likely one of their favourite tracks, but also one of the more challenging as we barrel down into turn 2, down 1, down 2 gears, just trying to run it out wide, and then here as early on the throttle as you dare into T2. It's sort of in camber, so you can get on the power a lot earlier than you expect, and then we come into the iconic S's section, feathering the throttle between sort of third and second gears, dabbing the brakes, just trying to hit those apexes. That's all they're focusing on here, apexes and exits, as now we come off that and into the Dunlop curve, far to the right, hook it into the left, and again on the power a lot earlier than you expect as we come down into the Degner curves. This is on the brakes just before the 50 board, hook it to the right and hope it sticks, mount that curve, don't run over the track limits there, down 2 gears into Degner 2, and again watching track limits on the exit. As we come up to the hairpin, the driver's going to be flinging it to the right, holding it as far right as they can as they shuffle down the gears through this hairpin and on the throttle as early as they can. In the wet, these conditions are so difficult, they're going to be running as low of a TC as possible, so managing that hairpin and the throttle control is going to be absolutely key to the exit, as this is a big straight, well not really a straight, it angles to the right as we come into Spoon Curve, down 2 gears, hold it round the left hand side, and then this second part of Spoon Curve is actually off camber. That is difficult in the dry, let alone in these wet conditions, making sure you're applying that throttle and not losing the rear, because the second that slips out you're going to be bleeding time down the straight as we fire up the gears into 5th, shortly into 6th as we come into the iconic 130R, down a gear just off the throttle and then back on as early as you can, run it out wide, don't go too wide in the wet, down the gears as we go into the Casino Triangle, over that curve, because you can do that with track limits, over this second curve, and again slightly off camber as we round out a lap here at Suzuka of this iconic racetrack, John.
Yeah, on board there, championship leader currently, Marco Badowski, streaking ahead 186 points to his name over Nico Kumpu. Next up, 132 points. So looking to extend that lead for the Team Monkey Racing outfit. The number 45 Audi R8 provisionally to the pole, although the first car to set a time. Christian Klipper across the line, 2:13.490, and Tobias Sontag throws his hat in the ring as well as his teammate Vlad Will. The Almania Aachen Esports outfit out in force today. 3 cars on the grid, so look out for those guys working together. Andy Boardman, relatively quick in practice, already throws himself to the front of the field in the number 69 Greased Weasel entry, and plenty more times coming through. Peter Lundqvist earlier on in the Deutschland Masters chat was praying for some wet weather, but not too wet, because he does find it a little bit tricky in that one. He does say hoping for rain tonight, and then he said, just because I said that, I will probably total the car in the rain, and spent 3 minutes in the pits repairing damage. So fingers crossed Peter Lundqvist doesn't do that tonight, and hopefully all drivers get through the race. And being told by our broadcaster, lots of invalid laps, Callum, and you mentioned it in your run through of a lap here at Suzuka, lots of track limits where you can fail yourself on.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, John, especially in the Degner curves. We've already got some action on track in qualifying. I think that was Whittle just losing the rear end there as they were going side by side, and made contact. I think they're both probably going to jump into the pits, repair what damage they may have, although it was side damage, so maybe not too much, and get back out. But what people are going to want to be doing in these wet sessions, John, is maximizing for the 20 minutes lap, 20 minutes of fuel, and just gaining confidence. You know, wet tracks are ever changing. There's going to be multiple cars on tracks. The track will most likely become a little bit better as more people start circulating. But you know, we are on double line rain. It is raining rather heavily as we are on board by a Sontag down through 130. Are heavy on the brake into the Casio triangle, mounting the curve. Doesn't want to invalidate on the inside there. Full throttle as he's massively up on his lap here. Is he going to be on for a good one? This could be on for a pole position. Oh, I forget that we got a little bit of a longer run here. Does he get pole? No, he loses that by a tenth, and that's probably again just a throttle application on that off camber final corner, just losing the rear a touch there, John. But yeah, this is, I mean, the season has already given us so much, hasn't it? We've had 3 incredible rounds, and then we come to Suzuka, such an iconic racetrack. The heavens have well and truly opened. Once again, the stage is set for this penultimate round, where though Badowski has got a commanding lead, especially in conditions like this, one heavy mistake, one bad round, and it goes right down to the wire here. Right down to the wire for Nordschleife.
Yeah, it's a good point there. Of course, Suzuka quite unforgiving sometimes with its nature. Again, lots of grass and gravel, although you do have the extended kind of curbing in places. It can catch drivers out in the wet, especially if they're turning down their TC levels. Kevin Boss with a valid time across the line, 2 minutes 12.640. Immediately escapes back to the pit lane. That's going to be another splash of fuel and a fresh set of wet Pirellis, and back out he shall go. Boardman, though, to the top of the board now with a 2 minute 10.852, setting the benchmark about halfway through this session, just under 7 minutes to go. So you've still got plenty of time to get at least 2 or 3 laps in, depending where you are currently on the circuit. And Badowski just 2/10 off his pole time. Again, Tobias Sontag, Vlad Will for the Almania Aachen Esports entries just behind him. Nico Kumpu, Christian Lindgren. We've got a slight row of Porsches going on there. Honsel in the mix. Olivier Curtin in the number 38 as well. So lots of varied manufacturers in those top 10 positions, and Audi certainly creeping on in as well with Jan Manzo in P10. Emo Plaza, though, throws his hat into the ring, splits the Almania Aachen Esports entries into P4, and Badowski straight to the top of the board with half a second, Callum, with a 2 minute 10.337. He has certainly found something in that last lap.
He absolutely has. A blistering that there by Marco Badowski as he peels off after that lap, probably to put on some fresh boots and get back out with 5 minutes left in this session. He probably could get another 2 times lap. Vlad Will crosses 1 second off, but into P3. Lindgren crossing the line, taking P3, 4/10 off that pole, which has now been taken by Andy Boardman. I didn't even catch that. We were jumping for joy at the Badowski lap, but then Boardman tops that by an extra 3/10. This track is ramping up. A lot of people are gaining confidence as we're on board with Marcus Honsel here, who is currently up on his time as he shuffles down the gears, mounts through those curves, doesn't want to get the invalidation, and barrels it down. He could be on for a massive improvement here. Hasn't invalidated as of yet, but currently 2 seconds. We know what Honsel's capable of. This should be a quite mammoth of an improvement. Where is he going to end up? And that's P9 for Honsel, just losing a little bit there on the final corner. He was 6/10 up at one point, but John, 4 manufacturers right up there in the mix against, again, just shouting out our custom BOP we have here today. -4 for the Audi, -11 for the BMW, +6 for the Merc, and +11 for the Porsche. We've seen it all throughout this season, how balanced this has been. And yeah, it looks like once again, we've got a fairly spicy contention between the 4 manufacturers today.
Yeah, of course, custom BOP, good to note here, Callum, for all the manufacturers on the grid, not only utilising data from LFM, but of course other communities and leaderboards around the various guises of ACC. Jan Manzo slots himself just inside the top 10, and once again proving the custom BOP is worth doing here, and it's certainly creating a very competitive field at the moment, as Tobias Sontag looking to mirror his teammates' improvement through 130R. He goes jumping over the curbs in the Casio triangle. Looks like he's lost a little bit of time compared to his best lap, and a big wiggle you can see there, fighting the oversteer as he comes out of turn 18 towards the line. He's hemorrhaging time at the moment. It's not going to be an improvement for Sontag, and just over his personal best. And Emo Plata slots himself up though into P2 as Joe Dorber spotted down on the pit lane, yet to set a valid lap time down in P22. Of course, Joe Dorber, you remember last week at Circuit of the Americas, taking overall victory in the inaugural round. 65 points to his name, the first race he's competed in this championship. So a good start to a kind of comeback drive almost halfway through the season, as Honzel now tackles the Casio triangle. Hopefully not going to mirror what his teammates just done. Looks much cleaner, much tidier as he begins his run to the line in the number 35 Almania Aachen Esports entry. Currently P9. Does he improve? He does. Up into P5, just behind Christian Lindgren, but it's a very big margin from the top four, from P5 Callum all the way down to P15. It's looking very, very wide here, and I think it's a confidence issue for a lot of these drivers here tonight. Some, again, practicing maybe more than others in these wet conditions, as one of the Whiffles off at 130R in the wall. They'll take no further part in the qualifying. And anybody coming around now, Callum, last shot at their laps essentially, so praying the track is getting ever so drier. But again, you can see the amount of spray coming off Peter Varga's car just ahead. Yao Manzo across the line looking to improve. Does he? To the line, he does improve, but not enough for a position. Just closing the gap to Olivia Curtin just ahead.
Last thing you want on a qualifying session like this is to be stuck in the spray. It can be so off-putting and quite frankly scary to be running behind a car like that. As we're back on board with Sontag, currently up on his previous lap. He's looking to gain up. We know these Almani Aachen Esports guys have the pace in them, but they're not quite getting the grasp of this wet Suzuka track just yet. And it could be a confidence thing, but it also could be, as he jumps up to P6, it could be a confidence thing, but also mistakes are just so punishing in these conditions, especially with the off-camber corners. Marcus Honzel's just gone through one in Spoon Curve. We saw it on the previous lap from Sontag in that final corner, that rear end just not being settled, going all over the place. That absolutely hemorrhaging time, leading time, not only for that lap which he was up on, but also for the subsequent lap, as he's not got the power down to get the straight to start that next lap.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? It's, you know, crucial to get a good run out of the Casio triangle, because it's such a large run across the start-finish line and all the way down to turn one that it can really upset the following lap if you don't quite make the best exit that you can. Honzel across the line to the top of the Almania Aachen Esports entries. He shall go. And Lily Armstrong throwing themselves into the mix as well in the number 88. Olivia Curtin next across the line. P9 just ahead of Tom Shipston's Porsche going through the front of the shot down into turn number 1. And everybody crossing the line now. 10 seconds to go. Nico Kumpu will just about snag another lap, although some traffic ahead in the form of Richard Whittle, and with him just behind brings Vlad Will and Mike Redford as well, as they just about get across the line before the checkered flag comes out. 3 minutes wait time on the clock, so should be more than enough to allow everybody to finish their laps. And Nico Kumpu seeking a late improvement here. Badowski is on his final lap of the session though. Checkered flag is out. He shall take no further part in the session once he crosses the line. And looking to the track map right hand side, he's got a nice clear road ahead of him, Callum, as he begins his run off Spoon Curve up the hill past the second pit lane here at Suzuka towards 130R. He shall go turn 15, a quick dab of the brakes, kick it down a gear, throw it in, pray it sticks, using all of the track now. You can see how different it was to his opening lap. He was very gingerly across that curb, and this time certainly finding the confidence to use all of the track. over the Casio triangle curbing he goes, aiming to get a good run down to the start-finish line. It's, of course, the later start-finish line as he comes towards the camera. Marco Badowski currently P3. Is it enough for pole? And it is! 0.2 of a second pips Andy Boardman to the pole in the number 45 Team Monkey Racing entry. But will it be enough, Callum? Still drivers circulating, including this man here, Andy Boardman, although the lap not looking ideal currently as he comes up to the Casio Triangle. Has he had a bad run through this section in a previous lap? Time will tell as he jumps the Greased Weasel racing car over the curbs. It's looking fairly even on Delta. A little bit of a wiggle as he comes off of turn 18. Towards the line he'll go, avoiding Lily Armstrong's car on the left. And is it enough? It's not. It's a 2:10.132 slower than his best, and Nico Kumpu now the only man that can really challenge pole, although Christian Lindgren going to throw a late lap into the mix as well, and it's not good enough to go up anymore. P5 for the Sim Brothers entry, and the Flying Finn, Nico Kumpu, towards the line in the number 256. Is it going to be enough? And it's an improvement, but not enough to gain a position, and the grid is locked in, Callum, for the hours race that is coming up here on RCI TV. Full qualifying results on your screen. Very interesting indeed, Callum. Badowski sector 1 and 2. And we have to go all the way down to Vossi Tigris in P15 before we see the fastest third sector.
Yeah, that's not something you see often, with 0.2 on Badowski's time at that. But once again, it's Badowski's day, followed by Andy Boardman, Nico Kumpu, Emo Plata with a brilliant performance there in P4, followed by Christian Lindgren. We then have the two Armania Alpine Esports cars in Sontag and Honsel. Lily Armstrong, Curtin and Tom Shipston round out your top 10. What a qualifying session. Again, we have 4 manufacturers right up there, right ready for the fight. But Badowski, he's got that comfortable lead, currently sitting at 34 points. Clearly, he's looking to extend that and make a statement ready for the final round, John.
Yeah, wants to set him up for the final round, of course, at the Nürburgring Nordschleife 24 hours. The 4 different manufacturers on the grid, as you said, Callum: Audi, BMW, Porsche, and Mercedes lock out the first 2 rows of the grid. And we're going to go to championship standings as always at this point in the broadcast. Let's see how the land lies. 46 drivers to get through. So we'll start from the top with Marco Badowski with 186 points. Nico Kumpu, of course, just behind him on the next row of the grid, 132 points. Battle of the RPMS teammates with Tom Shipston and Yao Manzo, 116 and 111 points apiece. Marcus Honsel on 108, Emo Plata on 104, Olivier Curtin on 102, and just a singular point behind Lily Armstrong. We then got a big jump back to Christian Lindgren on 84, and Tobias Sontag just about creeping inside the top 10 with 81 points to his name. And of course, remembering his teammate ahead of him in P5, Marcus Honsel. So maybe expect to see a few team orders, possibly Sontag yielding positions to Honsel, of course, to try and further their championship standings. Peter Lundqvist and Nicholas Nordqvist, just a point separate the 2 Swedes before Battle of the Brits with Boardman, Dorber and Redford with 71, 65 and 56 points. Vlad Will, the final Almania Aachen Esports driver, with 53. Aaron Jackson on 46. Teammate Phil Roberts just behind on 43. And then we have a tie between Christian Clippert and Les Stevenson on 37 points apiece. And that, of course, concludes the top 20. And it's looking super competitive between a lot of the drivers. Of course, a singular point between a few of them, a handful of points between others, as Theobat Roskam with 33 points, Peter Varga with 29. We've got a tie between Rudy Filmalter and Richard Withel and Nicole Fox, all on 28 points apiece. Ted Ers on 25 points, Daniel Crimson on 23, Partez on 21, and Martin Foster on 18. Julian Kers on 13 points rounds out your top 30, and we've got a few more pages to get through yet. Bruno Teixeira on 9, Keith Withall also on 9, along with Neil Pimlott. So we've got yet another tie in the championship standings. Event admin Kevin Boss on 7, Eric Hooker on 5, Scott Lawson on 3, Matthias Byron on a singular point, and Victor Nordquist and a Bernardo Teixeira on 0 points, along with Vossi Tigris as well. And just one more final page to get through. Nobody on this page, though, taking any further part. A dash next to their name indicates a season sign-out, and we shall see no more of those guys. Top 30, Callum, of course, today score points. So even if you manage to get to the end today, you're going to score something on the board. 27 cars currently on the server. Not forgetting, of course, bonus points for pole position. 4 points go to Marco Badowski from today, and fastest lap will be awarded 3 points as well. So although, finishing position is crucial, equally so, it's a bonus if you can pick up those extra 3 points here and there, because that could make a difference by the time we get round to the Nürburgring 24-hour in a week's time.
You're absolutely right, John. I think a brilliant example of that is what we saw in round 2, where Kumpu had that disconnect on the grid, got from P2 all the way back, or to the back of the pack, persevered, pursued on, got back to P25, managed to whack in a healthy serving of points there and fastest lap, and he's currently sitting P2 in the championship. So literally every single point does count here. But what do we have here? Another Badowski and Kumpu showdown here. You know my heart's sitting with the Audis this race, John. But what do you think? What do you think we're going to be serving up today for the YouTube and Twitch chats?
Yeah, it's going to be rather interesting. Like you say, Badowski, Kumpu, and Boardman all throwing themselves together once again for what is normally quite a regular thing on Mondays, it seems, at the moment. Nico Kumpu, fresh out of the Community Series, the 6-hour we hosted on Saturday, paired up with Joe Dorber in a Porsche on that one, and had some fantastic pace at Spa. So don't discount the Porsche over a long run. Of course, Andy Boardman alongside Marco Badowski, 4 rings on the front of the grid as well. And as cars begin to get underway, track status less than ideal currently. The weather forecast is sunny stroke cloudy, so I'm trying to break through some of the clouds here at the moment. Rain forecasted in 30 minutes time, and the track surface currently is greasy, so tyre choice is going to be a very interesting one for us here tonight in the box, having to speculate what drivers are doing and what they're going to be planning, of course, for the next hour. We do have a rather wide pit window here tonight. 57 minutes we give the drivers to come down. The only thing we stipulate, you have to drop a litre of fuel into the car. Tyres completely up to the drivers, and we have a car electing to start from the pit lane. I think it's Mike Redford. Judging by the shape of the car, it is indeed a red Porsche with some blue accents. Mike Redford in the number 95, electing to start from pit lane, maybe sensibly trying to bring those dry Pirelli tyres into a better window than what currently is. Track temperature 33 degrees, air temperature 27, as you see in the top right hand side. Keep your eye on that area of the screen, because that is your weather forecast over the next hour. You can already see there's a dry line forming on the circuit. Offline still relatively wet. Curbs, painted surfaces will retain a lot of moisture as well, so some drivers may be caught out in these opening few laps as they begin to tiptoe around. It's a perfect time though to do our partner reads as always. Bottom left hand side of your screen, you'll see our carousel revolving around with all the brands that are associated with us here at RCI. AK Esports, a long-standing partner, again needs no introduction on the broadcast, the top provider of premium esports services and equipment, and also providing our server solutions here at RCI. Coach Dave Delta, a new partner for us here in 2025. Faster lap times start with Delta. A setup and data analysis app for iRacing, ACC, Le Mans Ultimate, and even Gran Turismo 7. Available in 9 languages, giving you access to setups, racing lines, and data analysis why not stay ahead of your rivals with Delta? Be sure to check our link in the description down below and take your racing performance to the next level. Another new partner for us this year, Green Man Gaming. Buy games and game keys via Green Man Gaming. Get the best prices, awesome bundles and exclusive game deals daily. And currently a Square Enix publisher sale currently running, among many other deals to be had. And 30 plus of you have already checked our affiliate link down below. Thank you very much indeed for picking up your titles via our link. It's very much appreciated as it sprinkles a few pennies into the RCI pot. IMB Racewear, providing fully custom designs to allow sim and real-life racers to make the impact they've always wanted in their apparel. From gloves to socks to jackets, you can be sure that every piece is crafted with precision. Moser Racing, again, thrilled to partner with those guys, a leader in high-quality sim racing gear. And if you are looking to pick up anything new in 2025, once again, an affiliate link down below in the description. And lastly, but no means least, we are a Motorsport UK esports recommended community. So that means you see a few advertisements over in their Discord from us, and their membership does give you access to certain perks, such as a cheap yearly iRacing subscription, I believe, when you do purchase your membership through Motorsport UK esports on that one. But cars gridding up through the Casio Triangle, everybody inching for a piece of space, and everybody wants that dry line currently. I expect to see Badowski cut Andy Boardman off as he tried to take the outside racing line through turn 1. Start gantry currently red, everybody kind of lining up roughly in a straight line, but everybody wants to try and dart out as we begin to get underway. Track status has reached the green stage, so there is some dry grip out there, but there will still be some moistures in the curbing as Badowski covers off the outside line immediately. Kumpu slots in just ahead of Emo Platas. Les Stevenson side by side there round the outside of turn 2. He's going to have to go a little bit of a hold up in the back of the pack as everybody gingerly comes off turn 2, vying for position through the single file that is the S curve. The switchback nature of these corners, you get shuffled out in one of them, you're going to be shuffled out for absolutely all of them as they begin to make their way up through turn 7. Badowski still leading though out front from Andy Boardman, Nico Kumpu, Emo Plata, Christian Lindgren currently buried into the back of that Mercedes as the Porsche probably switches the tyres on a little bit better than the Mercedes. We did see the Almania Arcan Esports entry. One of those guys is off into Degner 1, a position surrendered to Curtin in the Porsche, and Tom Shipston equally looking to make up space. Somebody's been shoehorned off at Degner 2. Cars scatter to driver's right to take avoiding action. Everybody gets through relatively safely, but the pinch point that is the hairpin, everybody standing on the brakes, vying for position once again. Joe Dorber making his way from the back of the grid, last week's race winner, already up into P19, maybe having a little bit of fun with this championship as he's currently out of contention of winning with Badowski's early dominant performance. We've got moves going on down into the spoon curve. Partes on Les Stevenson, and just ahead the number 18 there of Vlad Will. That's a stark difference to where he was last week at the Circuit of the Americas, and that's Sontag in a bit of an RPMS sandwich between Shipston and Manzo, but towards the front it is Marco Badowski that leads the first time through the Casio Triangle. Boardman stuck with him very nicely. Nico Kumpu also in tow, and we've got a bit of a break back to Emo Plata in the number 71, under pressure currently from Christian Lindgren's Porsche. And I gotta say, Callum, lap 1, that is probably one of the cleanest lap 1s I've seen, as Tobias Sontag elects to take his mandatory pit stop, followed by teammate Vlad Will. The Almania Arcan Esports entry want to pull out of this train. They want no fights to be happening. But this is very interesting because of the weather, Callum. Top right-hand side. Is this a bad call? I don't know currently.
Well, John, I'm not going to try and speculate or predict, because almost every time I do, it's the polar opposite. But I think you're right. That's definitely not something I'd be doing here. Whether they're going early onto the wets and just, you know, trying to run a little bit of a clean air in the race. Obviously, as you mentioned there, in lap 1 we go single file through the S's. A lot of this track is very single file, and if someone's making a mistake ahead of you, you're just going to be constantly dropping further and further back and not running your own pace and your own race. So I'm really interested to see what they're doing. Mike Redford, who started in the pits, that could be to, you know, stick on a set of wets and just run it out to the to the wet section, so that way he's only pitting for fuel. That could be a potential strategy that he's going on currently, as we're currently seeing all the backup that's happening on the hairpin. But yeah, very, very clean lap one. You know, I'm over the moon by that. I'm ecstatic for a mixed condition race. I absolutely love this kind of racing. And yeah, very clean. The front runners seem to have already got their afterburners on and going ahead, absolutely rocketing at the front as we go on board with the race replay here. This is at the start. This is Julian Kerrs, I think, a little bit of a contact with Kevin Boss there just into turn 2. You know, that's a corner that really sort of like tightens up, and you want to get that inside curve to get the maximum push into that S's section. So, you know, very much a 2 into 1 section. There's Kevin Boss currently running in P21. I've just noticed Les Stevenson, who's on the grass there, a bit of an interesting line, starting in P12, so he's not had a great start right now. Maybe looking to pit for those wet tyres as early as possible.
Yeah, as we catch another race replay, this time Lily Armstrong and one of the Almania Aachen Esports cars of Honsel just moves up out of turn 2 a little bit too prematurely, and unfortunately Lily Armstrong on the outside of that corner. And we were speculating on the grid a little bit of a mixed tyre choice on the field for today, and it's certainly that. As we look down through the field, the first set of wet tyres we do see is actually Lily Armstrong in the number 88 as we catch a race replay. Aaron Jackson this time and Joe Dorber. A small little bit of a rub through the S's. No harm, no foul really. Just a little bit of paint being traded between the two cars. So Lily Armstrong, your first car on wets. Les Stevenson also on a set of wets along with Kevin Boss and the Whittles equally on wet tyres as well. So currently a few cars running wet tyres on a dry track. Varga up the inside of 130R, the old hip and shoulder to Les Stevenson, who goes way off to driver's right over the extra runoff area and back into single file. And of course Les on those wet tyres on currently is a dry track. However, those will not be loving life all too much as they get very hot before the rain comes back underway. Jackson and Varga through the Casio triangle, elbows out here, and Jackson unfortunately comes worse off, spinning towards the outside of turn 18, manages to get it back underway and on the straight and narrow, although a bit of a time loss and a few positions lost there as well. Clip and Armstrong, though, most recently in the last few minutes. Again, Casio triangle proving to be a bit of a hot space as Armstrong naturally drifts out towards the right. Christian Clipper sees a chance and gets the nose of that BMW up through the outside of the last part of the Casio triangle. And Lily Armstrong equally on wet tyres as well. So that explains the slower pace. And Callum, I think anybody electing for the wet tyres at the start saw greasy and thought, I'm going to chance it and hope that the track doesn't dry out all too quickly. But the high track temperature here today, 33 degrees down on the tarmac. These wet Pirellis aren't going to be loving life at all. And you can already see Mike Redford on the dry tyre blast past Lily Armstrong like they're standing still. It's not even a fair comparison right now as Redford from his pit lane start, which I think was accidental, as he posted in the Deutschland Masters chat. Whoops. Anyway, ... finds his way back underway, and Lily Armstrong really scrabbling for grip on those wet Pirellis. It's not looking too pretty for the number 88 right now.
Yeah, it's not looking pretty for any of these wet runners. I'm not 100% sure that's the right call. That 30-minute stretch, well, it said 30 minutes at the start of the race, was a bit of a stretch to take those wet tyres into the dries. I mean, to box one lap of fuel, they're going to be doing roughly a 4-second pit stop. Anyone that pits here is going to be doing sort of roughly a 30-second pit stop. This is just in box time. So you're only gaining a net 26 seconds. So right now they've got to think, am I going to be gaining 20, or am I going to be losing 26 seconds worth of pace to these dry runners? Not to mention, you're absolutely cooking those wets in this dry condition right now. This could be... we could really be seeing a few punches, maybe some puncher territory here, John, which, I mean, that would be an absolute disaster. But whether these guys are going to be I think they're going to be losing more than 26 seconds here. That's me personally.
Yeah, I think lap times aren't going to be all too great currently. Lily Armstrong, last time by was a 2-minute 12. Just for a comparison, Badowski and your front runners are running low 2-minute 2s. So you're looking about 10 seconds a lap in time loss. I mean, Les Stevenson also into the 2 minutes 12. Kevin Boss 2 minutes 12 as well. All these wet runners relatively the same compared to your front runners. Top 12 currently running 2-minute 3s, 2-minute 2s. So you're looking at about 10 seconds a lap. That's going to be a considerable time loss, even with the time down the pit lane. It's not worth staying out on these wets, I don't think. I think you could really gain that time back. I mean, rain is imminent in kind of 10 minutes time. It's getting heavier in 30 minutes. So anybody on a dry tire will have to come down the lane. We're going to see a bit of a forced mandatory pit stop this time. We, elect to give the drivers that 57-minute window entirely. Normally, most drivers run as long as they can, jump in, throw the 1 liter in, back out they go. Jobs are good until the end. Whereas today, Callum, we're going to see the rain come down. It's going to force drivers to make that switch to the wet tire. But the crucial thing here today is when you choose to take that wet tire, because like we're seeing at the moment, too soon you're going to burn it up, and too late you're going to be limping around a wet circuit on dry Pirellis, kind of skating everywhere. And equally, you don't want to be that guy as Nico Kumpu on cue, almost. I promise this isn't staged. Nico isn't listening into our comms box. Shows an excellent example of how to lose grip at Suzuka. And this is a dry running car on a dry circuit as he gets it back underway, the number 256. Very well held there through Spoon 2. But we're going to be seeing that, but, multiplied by about 10 when the heavens open.
Multiplied by 10 and then some. Speaking of 10s, that's a 10 for me there for Nico Kumpu, as we saw Joe, but getting past Victor Tigris there from last place on the grid, may I said. He is to within 10 minutes up into P12. We know Dorber's got the pace as we ride up with Aaron Jackson. I believe there's an incident with Christian Clipper. He just dives up the inside there, and a little bit of contact, hip and shoulder, more than a hip and shoulder check into the hairpin, maybe just a little bit late on his braking point, and had to commit to that inside line. Could be one for the stewards, as we've seen a few bumps up and down this track. So the stewards have got some work cut out for them, and we'll read through those incidents as they come through. As we ride aboard with Scott Lawson, who's on the back of Les Stevenson. That BMW looking hungry right now to make that move on Les. I believe this is a bit of a wet versus dry scenario as well, where Scott's just going to have the grip around this final corner into the slipstream. Is he going to dart out to the right hand side? So he's going to have the inside line coming into turn 1. Is Les going to lift off? And I think he should be lifting off here, and he does a wonderful move there by Scott Lawson as he just breaks two gears down into that second corner, and a lovely clean move there by Scott Lawson.
Yeah, good move there from Scott Lawson. Usually one of the YouTube chatters we see here in RCI TV, but today electing to take himself to the circuit. But you're absolutely right, Callum. That was a wet tyre versus a dry tyre, and Scott Lawson made that look very easy. And I think Les Stevenson, very sensibly, a wise head on those shoulders, allowed the pass to happen, because it's pretty much inevitable when you've got two cars running 2 different tyres on a less than ideal circuit. As the heavens have opened, wipers are beginning to go. Top right hand side of your screen, that will tell you how the track is evolving. Currently green, the next step is greasy, and then we'll go down to damp before hitting wet in theory. Although rain is here for the next half an hour, it is easing off in about half an hour's time. So I'm going to expect, Callum, a couple of drivers to take 2 or 3 laps maybe, just to see how the track evolves, how the kind of water begins to pool up on the racing line, and then they're going to make a decision on those tyres. You're normally pretty safe within the realm of ACC to run dry tyres on a greasy circuit. We can already see there, though, Olivier Curtin struggling for grip around the outside of turn 2, takes to the grass. That's going to allow Jan Manzo side by side through the S's, the old hip and shoulder. Manzo goes rally crossing back onto the racing line, and I think Olivier Curtin had surrendered that position with Manzo bouncing back onto the circuit. It was a bit of an ambitious move around the outside of the first part of the S's, but again, you get nowhere by following the car ahead of you. So Manzo through up into P7. They now get some clear air before they hit the back of Honsel just ahead. I was saying, before it all kicked off, we're going to get a race replay from Olivier Curtin's point of view. Manzo there towards the flick on board with Manzo. Curtin's car towards the left, over the old grass and gravel, and Manzo back on. But what I was saying, dry tyres usually okay on a greasy track. You can normally kind of wrestle the car around, dial up the TC a little bit more, and the ABS before it hits damp. And damp is kind of the area when you want to start thinking about coming into the pit lane, and currently greasy. So I think Callum, a lot of drivers going to brave out at least one more lap, if not two more. And with the high track temperature here today, that should hopefully help keep some of the rain from building up as it hits the surface.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And a lot of people here in battles, sort of like with Nico Kumpu, who got a little bit squirrely over the curbs. This is the period where you want to be avoiding those exit curbs, as they are absolutely deadly. They are going around for another lap. I mean, I think we'll see a couple of people. Badowski actually the first to blink. So Badowski, our race leader, is the first to blink on the wets, whereas P2 and P3 of Andy Boardman and Nico Kumpu have stayed out. So a bit of an alternate strategy here. Badowski wanting to get those wets in, build up that confidence, get that heat into the tyre, whereas we've got the dry runners going out for an extra lap. And it looks like not many people have followed him. We've got a couple of cars coming down the pit lane now, but I did expect more people to be down the pit lane here, as Jesse Lee showing us a wonderful view of the Team Monkey Racing livery, a staple here that we see in RCI time and time again. I think we've got Badowski and Peter Varga running this car at the minute. But yeah, I thought we'd see a lot more people in the pit. Me personally, I'm not that confident with slicks on a wet surface, and I'd borderline say terrible. It's a death trap. You best believe the second I see a drop on my windshield, I'm coming in for the wet straight away.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jesse Lee getting very artsy with the pit lane camera work this week, and the drone cam and ACC certainly getting a bit of a workout. As Badowski off the jacks, on his way he shall go. Peter Lundqvist also in the lane, one of the Kaiju cars, the number 99. That's Aaron Jackson there, and it's a bit of a parody on real life liveries, so it's always good to take a close-up look towards some of the Kaiju cars as Jackson gets back underway. That's another set of wet tyres, and I think as the track surface did evolve to damp as Badowski's car dropped, I think Badowski has timed this one perfectly. Scott Lawson also in the pit lane, looking rather focused there in the cockpit of the car. And look how grey it is here at Suzuka. Rain is set to get heavier in 10 minutes time. Andy Boardman nearly off the road there as he stands on the brakes for the Casio Triangle. We're probably going to see a few more cars dropping themselves into the pit lane. I think it'd be a bit silly to try and brave this one. As you say, Callum, as soon as I see a bit of water and I'm on slicks, it gets real panicky. And coming out of the Community Series on Saturday, a set of worn slicks went on to the nearly on pace Bentley for the beginning of what was about a stint and a half for myself towards the end of the race, and that was going out on a wet circuit, so that was really not ideal. Managed to claw onto it and get ourselves to the end on that one. But yeah, if I was in any of these drivers' shoes, I would be right now coming down the pit lane. Teammate there, Peter Varga, Team Monkey, also down the lane. Nico Kumpu at the head of the pit lane. He should be one of the first cars to get underway, along with Andy Boardman looming in his mirror. And again, it's going to be an exercise of who has practiced their pit stop the most. Joe Dorber phases into shot as well in another BMW M4. That's a tricky place to be in between two cars. It's very hard to spot your pit marker. The sister Kaiju car in the background, Phil Roberts, also in the pit lane there as Andy Boardman gets underway, as does Nico Kumpu, and Boardman manages to fend off Kumpu into the pit lane. According to my timing here, Callum, Boardman and Kumpu matched each other's pit lane time, so roughly measures from pit in to pit out, includes the pit stop time as well. It's a 1:09.611 for both cars at the moment. So Boardman and Kumpu equally matched. Badowski has managed to jump both of them by about 2 seconds, and Christian Lindgren a minute up the road, still braving it out on dry tyres. And you can see how much movement from the 992 coming out of Spoon Curve. He's fighting that car every inch, and I think Christian Lindgren, in theory, Callum, should be down the lane this time by for Sim Brothers as well.
Yeah, I'm very surprised not to see him down the lane the first and second time round. But, you know, he was sitting there in P4, comfortably sitting behind Kumpu. He had a bit of a gap behind him. Why not go for the alternate strategy? Why not try something new? And that's exactly what he's done. Will it pay off? We will see at the end of his pit stop, as he is absolutely fighting that Porsche. How he's hanging on to that is unbelievable, and unbeknownst to sort of what I could be doing. Badowski gaining about 4/10 there in the pit stop, and gaining even more because he's got the warmth in the tyre. These guys are all warming up that wet Pirelli. He's already got the lap in his boots. He's just going to be extending that lead now. It's 2 seconds, 2.1 seconds currently. We'll probably see it a little bit higher as we round out the end of the lap. Emo Plata currently setting in net P5, most likely going to be side by side with Lindgren when he comes out in the pit. So Emo Plata still having a wonderful race, 7.6 seconds behind the race lead currently.
Yeah, Badowski now rounding through 130R, of course. Christian Lindgren still on the pit lane, taking on his wet Pirellis. The temperature, as you say, Callum, will be in this kind of leading trio of Badowski, Boardman, and Kumpu. Have already had a couple of laps to get those Pirellis up to temperature. Look to the right-hand side of your screen. Christian Lindgren's Porsche is sat in the pit lane somewhere. And I think we're just about to see a flash of it. We are, as we go past Lindgren, though, still in the lane. The stop is complete, so he is back underway. Although he will come out, I think, behind Emo Plata, and maybe even Honsel might be able to get him. It's going to be close going down into turn one. Honsel, though, just behind. Again, a warm Pirelli tyre for him. So it's going to be an interesting fight to see if Honsel can manage to get past Christian Lindgren. Meanwhile, we've got Olivier Curtin and Lily Armstrong side by side into turn one. There's a definite hip and shoulder there. Armstrong off to the left-hand side of the circuit, parked in the gravel. I don't think the number 88 is taking any further part, and already straight back to the pit lane. That probably announces a retirement. Olivier Curtin to the left, Lily Armstrong to the right, and it was just kind of the old 2 into 1. I think maybe Curtin a little bit too ambitious on the brakes. Wasn't expecting how much ABS was maybe going to kick in and drag him towards the outside of the circuit. And we've got a race replay here from Les Stevenson, under pressure from what looks like Tom Shipston in the background, and it got very close as they headed into Degner 2. I'm not sure if contact was made, but it did get very close. And Les Stevenson also down the pit lane with both of the Whittles, Richard and Keith, navigate their way into the pit lane. And I can only assume, Callum, that's going to be those wet tyres have basically no tread blocks left by this stage. They've been running on a dry circuit for near enough 15 minutes, and they're going to be absolutely dead now the heavens have opened. Yeah,
and looking at Les's pit stop time, he's definitely taken a set of tyres. 2 seconds of a pit stop, well, 2 seconds extra than the leaders, or 1 minute 11 in the pit. So where he was thinking of getting that benefit of just taking fuel, the wet tyres just have nothing left because they ran in such hot conditions. So he's had to put an extra set of boots on, losing out massively. Currently sitting in P21, as we have just got on board with Aaron Jackson and Peter Varga passing Kevin Boss. Kevin Boss in a very similar scenario to what Les Stevenson just pitted from, where he started on these wets. Those wets have been absolutely chewed up, and you can see the difference with a fresh set of wets to new set of wets there. Aaron Jackson driving around Kevin Boss like a mobile chicane in that instance. It's just an absolute disparity here between the two tyre sets, as Kevin still hanging on to the back of Peter Varga in that Mercedes. Is he going to be darting down pit lane to follow what Les Stevenson just did? We will wait and see. No, he is sticking out on these used wets, going to hang on to that P16 as long as he can. So at the start of the race, we did give some shout out and some love to our stewards. They have been busy, and you will see some incidents on the left hand side. A few RIs involving sort of Peter Varga and the 777 of Joe Dorber there. Another RI between Christian Clipper and the number 88 as well. The number 88 just for a minor contact. But the only incident we've had a penalty for, sorry, John, is between the 99 Aaron Jackson and the 238 of Christian Clipper. That would have been the contact into the hairpin.
Yeah, that would have been the absolute send that Aaron Jackson just accidentally, I would say, fell into as he caught the grass of the right-hand king. Stood on the brakes for the hairpin, and unfortunately that car was not going to stop in time and found the door of Christian Clipper. So 5 seconds there to Aaron Jackson. Already taken his mandatory pit stop, so the 5 seconds will be tacked on to the end of his race. And a little bit of sarcasm from our stewards today. We did say that the race start was very, very clean. Here's a race replay here. Aaron Jackson caught the inside, dust kicked up, stood on the brakes, and unfortunately couldn't stop in time and into the door of Christian Clipper. A little bit of sarcasm, though, as I was saying, from our head steward tonight, McKenna McConnell. Absolutely swamped with lap 1 and lap 2, and finally posted now with a kind of sweat wiping emoji from the brow, alluding to how clean lap 1 and lap 2 was. And we set it up here in the box as well. Probably one of the cleanest starts I think we've seen at RCI in a while, as we got a yellow flag out for the number 157. Looks like it's down into 130R. It's Keith Whittle in the BMW. Here's a medium replay. Turns into 130R. The car doesn't want to turn in. Goes for a little bit of skate over the curb and into the tyre wall on the inside there. Plenty of cars coming through behind. Very scary stuff, trying to get it back underway. That's very close. Reversing onto a wet racing line. That's very, very, very risky stuff from Keith Whittle. And that car is on a set of wets, Callum. I was going to say, was he on dries by how much he understeered going into 130R? But definitely a set of wet Pirellis, and I can only assume the stewards are going to be casting their eye very closely over that one, because that could have been so much worse than it was.
Yeah, I think that would be quite a hefty penalty coming for Keith Whittle there. I mean, we see it time and time again. It's so important just to wait for that gap. The second you come out onto track, I had it in the community series actually this weekend, but the second you're coming onto track, or you're not being predictable, and moving in that instance is not being predictable, you're just going to cause absolute carnage there. I think it was Phil Roberts who narrowly avoided that, and that would have been race ending for both people involved. As Jesse Lee's just informed me, this is an additional pit stop for Partes here, so could have started on the wets. I mean, we're just theorising here, but he may have accidentally selected a wrong tyre and had to re-pit again. But either way, a second pit stop, something I didn't think we'd be seeing today, John, as we go on board with Mike Redford, who I think has just been passed by K-Boss, or passed in K-Boss. And K-Boss, as we all know, the mammoth of defence. Whatever car he's driving, he always makes it as wide as possible, as Julian Kurtz making a dive into Spoon Curve. That's not a place we often see taking, and that is why 2 does not go into 1 in that corner, as I think we're going to go right on board with the race replay here. It was the missing of the braking point and just having to go up the inside. Another one again for the stewards, and I'm predicting a quite hefty penalty there for Julian Kurz, John.
Yeah, Julian Kurz or maybe Randy Orton straight out of nowhere. Mike Redford certainly not expecting that one as he pitched his car in to Spoon 1. News just in, Lily Armstrong, aka Grim Lilith, some serious life advice here. Don't be a sheep, be a shark. Is what they've said in our comms chat. Moral of the story in the YouTube chat, don't listen to your own teammate. Of course, Grim and Les teamed up in the Kaiju car for the 6-hour community series. Les pulled him to the side and said, hey Grim, listen to me. It's going to rain. These guys don't know. And, Les, bit awkward there, because that one didn't really work out, did it, for either Les or Grim, as we see Joe Dorber exercising the limits down at Degner. And of course the wet tyre at the start of the race, not the best choice, and with the earlier on incident with Lily Armstrong and Olivia Curtin. Lily deciding to pull the garage door down. Mike Redford sizing up Kevin Boss once again, this time without Julian Kurz flying in behind, and equally struggling to get drive off the Dunlop curve. Down to Degner 1, tries the old up and under into Degner 2. The space is given from Kevin, and up the inside goes Mike Redford. But Kevin Boss certainly struggling currently on these tyres. 216 0.8 for Kevin Boss. Next car up the road, let's just say argument's sake, Christian Clipper, 2 minute 12 flat. So there's a good 4 seconds a lap being lost from Kevin currently, nearly even 5 seconds actually when you look into it, Callum. And I think Kevin should just come down the lane and renew those Pirellis, because they're not going to dry. I don't think it's going to dry out in time. Rain is easing off in the next 30. There's only 31 minutes left on the race timer, so I mean, by the time the rain stops, it's going to be a minute to the end. The track's not going to dry out. Pull yourself into the lane, Kevin, and get those new Pirellis on.
Yeah, Kevin currently lapping sort of one of the slowest people on the track with those used Pirellis, and you're absolutely right. He needs to be getting in that box and putting a fresher on, just for the comfort. I mean, I can only imagine the stress of lapping for 30 minutes on a wet Suzuka with used tyres like that. But again, it just goes back to the resilience of Kevin Boss and how he's mentally able to put up with that, because you best believe I'll be darting down the pit lane as we're on board, showing the rear of Andy Boardman. All race long, Nico Kumpu has been hunting this man down. There's clearly a lot of pace in that Porsche, and we know how hard it is to overtake a Suzuka. It looks like, you know, if he gets alongside, he's got a good chance at the hairpin, and that's what he's going to be doing, sizing up, learning the braking points here of Boardman, thinking about how he can plan that move as he's right on the back of him at Spoon Curve. We have just seen overtaking at Spoon Curve, not always the brightest idea, but we also saw Kumpu in the dry lose his rear in this second section, so he might be applying the pressure as we see here, hoping that Boardman's going to make that mistake on the off-camber nature of the second part of Spoon Curve, and he would have that run into 130R and into the Casio Triangle.
I would say one thing Andy Boardman is good at is putting up a solid defence, and we've seen it a lot here on RCI Mondays and across the RCI calendar in various guises. Boardman is very hard to pass, and even once you do get past him, there's gonna be a retaliation move, because he doesn't just give up and, you know, take a move lying down as he runs a bit wide after turn 18. The grip of the Porsche allowing Nico Kumpu up the inside. It's going to be a straight drag race now down towards the first turn. Nico Kumpu on the favoured side of the road, but the grunt of the BMW is just enough to get him ahead, and Nico Kumpu makes a late break move, collides into Andy Boardman. Off to the left-hand side he goes, and manages to get it back under control. And I'm not sure if that was a flash of the lights or maybe just a check that the lights were on that Porsche. But let's catch a race replay here, Callum, on board Nico Kumpu. Ignore the rearview mirror as he lunges down the inside, and I think Boardman tried to put up a bit of a defence as well, and just 2 into 1 just doesn't go. And it's even trickier to make those lungy moves stick, especially in these wet conditions. It's another factor you've got to add on, of course, being off the racing line, going to be slightly wetter. Is there going to be a puddle that the ABS doesn't like, or something to upset the car as you move out towards the right hand side? But Kumpu latched back onto the rear of Andy Boardman. He's really not giving it up, is he? The Finnish man is fired up and he's ready to go. He wants this next step of the podium and a little bit of traffic ahead. Could this be what Nico Kumpu needs to get past Andy Boardman right now?
Yeah, it could be a valiant move into turn 1, but something that didn't quite stick. Again, just offline. You know, you've got to calculate your braking point for that. As he's running really right there as he's coming into Spoon Curve. Just, I mean, I don't know whether he was having a look or just running out wide from the understeer there, but Boardman stuck to his line there. It looked like Kumpu wasn't going to make the apex anyway, but he knows now, right, I've got a potential move here. If I get the right exit out that final corner, I can get alongside again, and will learn from that previous mistake, and he'll make sure he hits the break points if he gets another go. So we're right on board with Partes here. This is our pitter here. It's another one there that's been claimed by 130R. It could just be a little bit slippery. We've seen Keith Whittle go off, and now we've seen Partes. It seemed like they're just taking a bit too much exit curb lighting up those Pirellis on the exit as you are almost, dab on the brakes, hook it in, slam back on the power, and just losing that rear end. It is absolutely ice out there for these drivers today.
Yeah, very easy to upset the balance of the car through 130R as well. In the dry, let alone, even in these wet conditions, it only takes a pedal input too wrong or a steering input just, not to the norm. The car doesn't like it, and unfortunately, you do go around. But keeping out of the wall, Partez will get back underway once again, and that happened just ahead of the guys we're watching at the moment. So that could have been very, very different had he not got the car back underway as quickly as he did. A couple more reports coming in from our stewarding team. We've got an incident lap 10, turn 3, involving the 38 and the 88. That was, of course, Olivier Curtin, and I believe the 88 escapes me. I think we've got a race replay coming up here. That was indeed Lily Armstrong in the Volkenhorst Motorsport car. It was 15 seconds given for Olivier Curtin for avoidable contact, and they have taken their mandatory pit stop, so the 15 seconds will be added on at the end of their race. We've also got an incident lap 10, turn 15, involving the 157 and the 225. It's a 5 seconds for the 155 for an unsafe, the 157 for an unsafe rejoin, forcing other cars to take avoiding action. So stewards still very much awake next door to us, and we thank them very much for their efforts that they do put in, of course, volunteering here at RCI. And if you do want to get involved at all with us here at RCI, whether it be stewarding, broadcasting, commentating, or just helping out behind the scenes, head on over to the Discord. You can find a link down below. There is a vacancies board in there with various job roles, so check it out. DM the relevant member of staff, and maybe you too could become an RCI staff member. Lots of big things on the horizon. iRacing, we've got a new championship starting up very soon, mirroring the IMSA calendar almost on that one. And again, plenty more ACC events to boot. And this week, Friday, continues our LMU Friday multi-sprint series as they head to round 4 in Portugal to take on Portimao. Hypercar and GT3 take to the stage for 8 rounds of racing, taking you all the way to March 21st. So you've still got at least another month in that championship remaining there. We've got double splits open for this one as well, with some spaces if you do fancy joining us. And we're back into the realm of ACC for Saturday with a double header, where we'll be bringing you the final round of the 6-hour esports series on RCI TV as we head to what is predicted to be a very hot Barcelona with limited tyre sets. Lots of talk already in the community about this one, whether it's possible to even make the double stint. So you may see a couple of burst tyres on your screen on Saturday. But 255 competition is at a very commanding championship lead and looking rather untouchable as they head to the final round. And then in the evening, we stay at Barcelona for Saturday. That's Saturday now, season 16. Season 20, heading to round 4. Slightly later start time than you might be used to with us here at RCI. Practice beginning 10 p.m. UK time. So ideal for those of you on an obscure time zone, or once the family is all tucked up in bed, sneaking off to the sim rig for some late night racing. Over on the website as well, 2 new iRacing events also on there with the IMSA Endurance Series. That is now on the website, so it wasn't exclusive last week, but maybe you can get your name down super early for this one. GTP and GT3 take to 7 races at iconic tracks across America, but there is a twist with this one, with each race being open to a full season entry and or a one-off team entry as well. So if you don't fancy running the whole calendar, you just want to dip your toe in the water across the board, that's going to be one for you. Teams can be anywhere from a solo driver up to 4 drivers in total, with trophies actually confirmed this week. Callum, I've spoken to the people that be. Trophies are confirmed for those who finish a whole season, and they get awarded to the top 3 in each class who managed to finish, of course, across the whole season there. So if you don't want to get your hands on some exclusive RCI trophies, iRacing is the place to be. And just tonight, Callum, I think this one's a bit of a favourite for you. Ginetta Cup is back for Season 3. That's beginning March 3rd, and it always proves to be a popular choice of a series. So don't miss out and get your name down early for that one. That's within ACC as well. And Nico Kumpu finding some traffic on the circuit at the moment. Kevin Boss and Scott Lawson in the wall at the hairpin. The 111, I think, panicked a little bit as he saw the blue flags waving and unfortunately off into the outside wall. But Kumpu and Boardman sneak through on that one. But Ginetta Cup, Callum, on the website, definitely get your name down for that one.
Now, quickly, I just want to say we did see that the Kumpu has finally got past Boardman. I'm not sure if we'll get a replay of that, but that's not something we saw live on our broadcast. But yeah, going back to the Ginetta Cup, John, we go way back. You know, we've got a bond here talking on RCI. I will not be joining you in the comp box. I will be racing in that one. I absolutely love the Ginetta on this game, and I cannot wait for this. I just can't wait. I said this story earlier, but the Ginetta season like 2 seasons ago was sort of the first time I got properly involved with the RCI community here. Not for the right reasons. I actually had a massive incident that I caused at a wet Zolder, and sent a aggressive amount of sorries to a number of drivers. And that's how I got involved with the community and started actually talking to the drivers here and making friends with a number of the drivers you see here today and that we see on the Saturdays in the iRacing leagues and the LMU leagues. And I've never looked back since, you know. So again, if anyone wants to get involved here at RCI, it's such a nice community of people, and I highly, highly recommend it.
Heard it here first. Callum racing in the Ginetta Cup. So if you do want to get into the comms box, maybe the Ginetta Cup could be your stepping stone on to RCI TV. Like I say, full details of any staff vacancies within the Discord down below. You can find all of our relevant links to us here at RCI and also to all of our partners. They've been revolving around in the bottom left hand side of your screen. AK Esports, Coach Dave Delta, Greenman Gaming, IMB Racewear, Moser Racing, and also Motorsport UK Esports, being of course a recommended community over with those guys there. On your screen though, we've got pictures from Yao Manzo's Audi as we ride on board. The spray that is being kicked off from his teammate ahead, that's Tom Shipston just ahead of him. You can just about see the tail lights. It's Joe Dorber in the 777. And just up the road, there is another car I'm struggling to work out. I think it's Olivier Curtin. I just saw a flash of green as they pitched through the hairpin. He's got a 15-second time penalty to his name. So if you add up all the gaps beneath him on the board, a second to Joe Dorber, half a second to Shipston, another half a second nearly to Manzo. Phil Roberts 4 seconds back. Curtin is set to lose a lot of places from that 15-second penalty. So the Kraken engineering car really has to get the hammer down and get underway to try and pull as much of a gap as he can, as we see the flying formation switch between Yao Manzo and Tom Shipston as they head through Spoon Curve. We're going to get a race replay on your screens at the moment. And I mean, looking at the last lap times though, Tom Shipston was 0.2 of a second quicker than Yao Manzo, but maybe the Audi R8 just coming into effect in this latter stage of the race. We know the rear tyres of the Porsche can't really cook themselves, and you can already see how much of a gap Manzo has opened up just from Spoon Curve to the start-finish line. And the 222 Audi certainly looking a lot more comfortable to have a stab at the back of Joe Dorber in the Rebound Racing car just ahead. Meanwhile, Varga and Jackson, we saw these two battling earlier on, Callum. They now find themselves back into a fight. This is going to be for P14 overall, but once again, Aaron Jackson, 5-second time penalty. So not only has he got to get past Peter Varga, he's then got to clear him by 5 seconds, or that position is going to be null and void, and absolutely pointless to be had. And this is how the position was lost out of Dunlop curve. Oh, there was a touch between Varga and Jackson. That upset Jackson going into Degner, completely missed his braking point and ran very wide into the gravel. So could we see a flip reverse of this and a penalty for Peter Varga as well potentially issued here?
Yeah, and if Peter Varga picks up the 5-second there, then these guys are racing on forward track position here, regardless of penalties. That does seem to be, just didn't quite know where the nose of your car was. A little bit of contact running Jackson wide. Another one for the stewards box, which I do predict a penalty most likely coming for Peter Varga. As those guys going very aggressive on the exit curve there, maybe even track limits as they come into the hairpin. Far right, hold as right as you can. Jackson just trying to take a bit more of an outside line, hook the car in and get earlier on the power to see if he can get that run into Spoon Curve. But we've got a bit of BMW on BMW action here. There's definitely a little bit of a lost love between these two. We've seen a bit of contact beforehand. This could be one that definitely spices up as the race develops. Joe Dorber just going back up the field, currently 9/10, or catching back up with Olivier Curtin, but Yao Manso on an absolute charge right now, past Shipston after that mistake, and now right on the back of Joe Dorber. That Audi is looking mighty right now as he takes a little bit of a wider line, try and get a bit more exit speed, tucks into the slipstream of the BMW. Joe Dorber's opting for the outside line. Yao Manso taking the inside. We've seen a lot of people break a little bit late and make mistakes here. He thinks better of it. Tucks in behind Joe Dorber, and then we run into the single file iconic S's section. But Yao Manso seems to be on an absolute charge in that Audi today.
Yeah, Manso's Audi certainly looking like the more comfortable car as they came into the latter half of the lap. The car looks very planted and very good turn-in compared to Joe Dorber's BMW, and I don't think this fight is over yet. I think Manso certainly wants to make up an extra position, because if he does, essentially definitely inherits the position from Olivier Curtin once the 15-second time penalty has, of course, been issued. Something we didn't spot earlier on in the broadcast, Tobias Sontag for the Almania Aachen Esports entry. We spoke about those guys. 3 cars in the server at the beginning of the race, and quite a high rate of attrition. Only one of them still circulating, and that's Honsel up in P6 currently. But Tobias Sontag apologizes for the DNF. It annoys him very much, as it does, I think, lots of racing drivers when they can't manage to get to the end of the race, whether it be virtual or real life, as we see Scott Lawson there very wide at Spoon 2. That allows Richard Whittle to take away P21, but again, I don't think this fight's over just yet. I think Scott certainly wants to get back at Richard Whittle there. Back to Tobias Sontag though, frustrated by the wrong tyre, and would have been in the way of the field, so maybe giving up just because he didn't want to be a mobile chicane. We've got a race replay of Keith Whittle, although this is definitely Nico Kumpu in the Porsche. Broken replay, we're being told from Jesse Lee. I think normally when, yeah, there we go, jumps straight to the pit lane, so something has happened with Keith Whittle's BMW there that's pulled him back to the pit lane. P23 currently, and that could be another retiree. Callum, 27 started the race. We're down to 22 drivers, so the weather here today being really, really punishing.
Yeah, really punishing, and it is so tough in these conditions, and with the nature of Suzuka as well. I mean, on a dry, optimum track, perfect temperatures, this is an absolutely brutal track, slightly offline, and you are being punished. The cut corners are alternating between on camber and off camber, and just a slightly different throttle application. You're not trailing off that brake in an optimal way, and you are punished at this racetrack. I mean, a lot of people say, as I said earlier on in the broadcast, this is probably the most favoured track, this and sort of the likes of Nordschleife and Spa in the world, not only for us sim racers but IRL. A lot of people say that Suzuka is just incredible, mainly for that S section, but also because it's challenging. These drivers want to be challenging themselves by coming to the most difficult racetracks and challenging themselves to do better. Riding on board with Badowski I noticed Kumpu in the background there, seeming to be cooling down his tyres at the minute, going off the line onto that straight and cooling down those tyres. But what else is happening is there is a game happening here, John. Last time I looked, Kumpu was about 5 seconds, 5.1 seconds off. He's now 4 seconds behind, could be on for a late charge, and if he is on this late charge, I'm going to be sitting here absolutely gutted thinking what we could have been an out-and-out Nico Kumpu-Badowski battle. But Kumpu, as well as Manso right now, seem to be the chargers of the field.
Yeah, certainly some late pace coming in from certain guys in the field. Last time by Badowski, 2 minutes 8.5. Nico Kumpu, 2:07.9. So it's a gain, it's a small gain, and of course with just under 12 minutes on the race timer to go, we're looking at roughly maybe 5 to 6 more laps, possibly even a seventh if the timer allows. And Christian Lindgren really exercising the limits of that Porsche as he slides his way through the Dunlop curve, trying to latch on to the back of Emo Plata just ahead. Those two guys equally running similar lap time, 2:08.2 last time by for both of those guys. Andy Boardman, 2:08.1 as well. So Nico Kumpu looking like the fastest car currently in the top 10. Yao Manzo, 2:08.9 versus Joe Dorber's at 2:08.7. So whatever Manzo had maybe was only a couple of laps grace and has dropped back off the pace once again. But Badowski just has to keep it on the straight and narrow. Last lap was invalid, which does suggest there was some extra use of track limits. However, we can't tell up here in the booth whether any warnings have been given out for track limits. It's something we spoke about in qualifying, and with 50 minutes nearly completed on the clock, I'm rather surprised, Callum. This is curse of the commentator about to strike here. We haven't seen our first drive-through yet.
I am very surprised, and now you've said it, I'm expecting one to pop on the screen imminently. Obviously, the key track limit zones here are in the chicane that we're seeing Lindgren go. A lot of people would have cut the chicane as much as possible there, but it's very high risk, very high reward. You gain time making that sort of cut, but you will most likely get a penalty if you don't know how to cut that absolutely perfectly. The exit of 130R is a very common place as you're pushing as fast as you can into that 130R section. Running right onto that curb is very, very common. You often see it here at turn 2, just again hard on the power, early on the power, using that camber to your advantage. But if you're not absolutely perfect, you're gonna run wide, run onto that curb and get another track warning. But the main areas are into these two Degner sections. You're down one gear, hooking it to the right, and just trusting the car is going to stick. I mean, that is definitely my technique anyway, John. Probably not the right one, but you're just trusting that car's going to stick, hoping that it sticks onto the curb when you get there. If not, you're running wide. You're getting the penalties. We see them coming through now, and here, down 2 gears, just hooking it in there early on the power, and you run wide over that white line, you're going to be getting a track limit warning. Very, very achievable. I wouldn't say achievable. Very common on a dry track. Me, notably, probably gets a drive through within 15 minutes on this track in the dry. In the wet, it's just exponentially harder. I cannot even fathom that we haven't seen one yet, because I reckon I have 3 more.
I reckon I'd easily, speed run a drive-through penalty here at Suzuka in the dry. It's so easy when you're really pushing those limits. Maybe some of the drivers tonight under-driving the cars to what they're used to with this wet weather, and Joe Dorber chomping at the back of Olivier Curtin. Certainly, I don't think he's going to make a lungy move, a late move, or a desperate move, because that 15 seconds will be visible to the whole server. So anybody behind Olivier Curtin just really has to stick with them. There's a big wiggle from the Porsche off the driver's right through the middle of the Spoon curve, and that opens up the inside as well to Yao Manzo, who's got a much better run through the middle of Spoon. And let's catch a race replay from the Helicam. He comes in a bit too hot, rear end breaks away, catches it, out onto the right-hand side. Lots of extra tarmac keeps him in play. Position surrendered though. Joe Dorber in the 777 BMW manages to get ahead, and now Yao Manzo gets even closer to the Kraken Engineering car, with Tom Shipston, his teammate, also lurking in the background with just under 8 minutes to go. The rain is here until the end. Track status is wet, so anybody that picked the wet tyre at the perfect time, Marco Badowski being the man, I think, that timed his pit stop perfectly, sails on towards the end. But Christian Lindgren not giving up the fight with Emo Plata just yet in the Mercedes. Last time by, there was a mistake from Plata, 208.9 versus Lindgren's 207.9, so a whole second gained for the Sim Brothers number 48 entry of Christian Lindgren, and certainly going to want to be getting a move on. There's a yellow flag out for the number 195, I think, down somewhere. That's Partes again, coming out of Dunlop Curve. Managed to loop the Mercedes around the number 195, facing the wrong way. Replay not enough to catch it, Callum, but I can only assume that's going to be, you know, I'm feeling real confident here. Let's turn the TC down ever so slightly. Comes out of Dunlop Curve. There's a puddle probably somewhere. Catches the Mercedes and into the inside wall. But back underway, no harm, no foul. Just a bit of a time loss and a mistake there from Emo Plata. Running wide in the Spoon Curve allows Christian Lindgren up the inside. Sim Brothers racing up towards P4 now, and Christian has to make that 992 as wide as he can for the next 6 minutes. But if Emo Plata keeps making these mistakes, Lindgren should be able to drive cleanly away. But I think it's going to be a big ask to catch the back of Andy Boardman in the next 6 minutes.
Yeah, it will be a big ask, but it's not something I'm going to put past him. These Porsches are looking rapid right now. Kumpu, since we last spoke, has taken another 1.4 seconds off of that lead to Badowski. He is absolutely flying, and we're seeing a very similar thing with Christian Lindgren as well. The Porsches are just seem to be in their zone right now, as we see a fight between Yao Manzo and Olivier Curtin. Olivier Curtin just running wide and losing out to Yao Manzo here. We're going to go on a race replay again, side by side into 130R. Space was given, but Olivier Curtin just runs a touch wide there. That's 2 positions in 2 laps for Olivier Curtin. Probably one he most likely wants to forget. I mean, he's currently sitting P7 in the championship, in and around some of these names, so he wants to make sure he keeps these points under the belt. Speaking of something that's been, you know, brilliant for their championship charge and where they want to finish off, Christian Lindgren's move on Emo Plata is going to be brilliant for his championship running into the last round. He's currently sitting in P9 with Emo Plata on P6 with a 20-point difference between those two. So that's a hefty sort of collection of points that he's going to see into the final round as he chases down Andy Boardman in these dying stages. 2.5 seconds in 2-3 laps is a mountain to climb, but we're starting to see the mistake rate sort of pick up here, John. A lot of people making mistakes into Spoon Curve. I mean, that braking zone is so challenging for these drivers, especially in these wet conditions, and the second part of Spoon. A tiny mistake from Andy Boardman, albeit we rarely see those here in RCI, but Lindgren's going to be right on the back of him and applying that pressure.
Yeah, never say never here, especially when the wet weather is a factor, as Marco Badowski through 130R. You see Nico Kumpu in the background moving offline to try and catch some water in those wet Pirelli tyres, just to try and keep them alive for just a few more minutes. And a lap update as they come towards the line. Nico Kumpu's last lap not valid, which kind of alludes that, again, exercising track limits, as Badowski hits a 207.9. It's a 207.4 for Nico Kumpu behind. He's chipping away, but I don't think it's going to be enough in this late stage. But again, like you say never. We are seeing quite high rates of mistakes at the moment from people that we don't typically tend to see making said mistakes, as Tom Shipston missing the curb near enough of the first part of the Casio Triangle. He's taking the cautious approach, I think, just clawing on to P10, knows that he's not going to catch anybody else ahead. Of course, Olivier Curtin in the number 38 Kraken Engineering car, as every driver ahead trying to find any ounce of water on the start finish straight. Track status is officially still wet, so there should be plenty of moisture as you run off the racing line. Peter Lundqvist doing well, thought he was going to bin the car into a wall and into the pit lane, and 2 minutes 40 on the clock, so 2 more times around Suzuka, and he has survived a wet race here. Just ahead, Vossi Tigris in the number 15 Porsche. Again, we say the Porsche's coming alive in the late stages of the race, but Peter Lundqvist certainly looking quick just behind Tigris. It was a 2:09.5 for Lundqvist last time by versus the 2:10.7 for Tigris. So a good gain from the Sim Brothers Racing BMW, the 999, looking to try and make a late gain. It's all very well catching Callum, as we say, but it's getting past that matters. And it would be some more championship points towards Peter Lundqvist if he can dispatch of Vossi Tigris.
Yeah, Peter Lundqvist currently sitting P11 in the championship. Obviously started with a brilliant round, sort of P5 in the early stages of this championship, and then had a quieter second and third round, but we know he's got the pace under himself and that BMW, so he's looking for a charge here for P12, but yep, catching is one thing, passing as another, and you add in the extra special difficulty of the nature of that pass here at Suzuka. But you know, applying pressure is all you can really do at this stage, hoping that they make a mistake slightly late into the brakes here at Spoon Curve, late into brakes at the hairpin, or going wide and making a mistake into 130R. What you want to be doing now into these dying stages, applying that pressure, get their heart rate up, make them make that mistake. It's all about pressure here, John.
Yeah, completely agree. And Marko Badowski clapping back at Nico Kumpu's times now, 2:07.8 versus a 2:07.9. So again, it's a small gain from Badowski, but it does put him 0.1 of a second up the road as we do enter the final stages here at Suzuka. Marko Badowski, Team Monkey Racing, he's got a handful of corners left to go. Turn 9 of Degner 2. Versus turn 18 of Casio Triangle as the corners tick down. Nico Kumpu behind knows he's done all he can in this race. He's got past Andy Boardman in the number 69 Greased Weasel BMW, and Christian Lindgren, actually, I've just noticed, appears to be closing down Andy Boardman at an alarming rate. 2:07.5 for Lindgren versus a 2:08.3 for Boardman. The gap looked very small as they headed into the hairpin, but I guess a bit of an optical illusion as the gap is still quite wide physically on the circuit. Peter Lundqvist as well running out of corners for Vossi Tigris. The Swede last time by 0.2 of a second slower than the Porsche ahead, the number 15 there for Tigris. So this is going to come down to the last final laps and who cannot make the mistake. But this man here, Marko Badowski, once again for Team Monkey Racing, the number 45 entry, has driven a fantastic race. It was first at the Nürburgring, it was first at Zolder, dropped to fourth at Kota, but puts himself back onto the top step of the podium here at Suzuka with another win under his belt towards his championship contention. Nico Kumpu just behind there, the number 256, did all he can in the late dying stages, didn't manage to catch. Andy Boardman managed to fend off Christian Lindgren, who picked up a very late drive-through penalty. I can only assume somewhere around Spoon or 130R, and that's converted into a 30-second time penalty. So Lindgren's going to be absolutely kicking himself after the fantastic performance he did. Amo Plata comes through in 5th, Honsel in 6th, the only Almania Aachen Esports entry to finish. Joe Dorber P7, Jan Manzo P8 with Partez in between with Kevin Boss as well. Olivier Curtin, bear in mind 15 seconds to his name, he'll drop down the order as well. Tom Shipston finishes with Phil Roberts just outside the top 10, and Peter Lundqvist managed to get past Vossi Tigris somewhere in the final lap. The Sim Brother 999 entry over the line, a wiggle there from Tigris. I think that's a GG wiggle if ever I've seen one from the number 15. Sister car to Badowski, Peter Varga, P14, somewhere in the background, Christian Clipper fending off Mike Redford just about after his pit lane start in the number 95, and somewhere behind still a few more to come through, Julian Kurz being one of them. 5 seconds to his name, but far too far ahead of Les Stevenson, who will unfortunately not inherit a position. And the number 46 is the last car circulating on the track at the moment. And still a valiant effort, Callum, from Les to see this one out to the end, even though it didn't really start off the best with the wrong tyre choice.
No, not the greatest of strategy calls, and I have got written down of my end of race notes. Never listen to Les Stevenson ever again. Steph Levinson, I've absolutely butchered his name. He's going to kick me for that one later. As we've got the final results here with a couple of penalties added on. Marco Badowski taking the win, his third win of the season, and the most dominant performance we've seen. The 3 rounds that have led up to this have all been, battles for the lead, not really sure how this ends. But Badowski from the get-go, he took that commanding lead and absolutely run away with it.
Absolutely. So I think Callum can't contain his excitement for yet another banger of a race. Christian Lindgren, though, slipped to P7 after his late drive through. That promotes Emo Plata back up with Honsel and Joe Dorber all inheriting 3 positions. Of course, Olivier Curtin slipped down from his position. I think Yamanzo Shipston and Phil Roberts inheriting extra positions from that one as well. Julian Kerr's 5 seconds is absolutely fine. Les Stevenson too far back, unfortunately, to gain anything. But again, another dominant performance, as you say, Callum, from Marco Badowski, our championship leader. As we came into Suzuka, we shall leave towards Germany once again for the Nürburgring 24-hour layout this time. This is where separates the men from the boys, should we say, as we take to the long loop around the Eifel region. And I'm sure we're going to see a few one-off wildcard entries for this one as well. I think Ted Edwards has alluded to a wildcard entry in the final race of this one. Again, RCI calendar this week absolutely stacked. LMU Friday on that one as they head to Portugal. That's round 4. Still plenty of rounds left on that season. Double header of ACC on Saturday. We've got the 6-hour esports series on RCI TV as we head to what is predicted to be a very hot Barcelona. 6 hours, 4 tyre sets. You do the maths. There's a couple of double stints involved in there as well. Over on the website, a new iRacing event announced with the IMSA Endurance Series. Whether you want to run a full season, a one-off round here and there, we're giving you the option of both, although there are trophies available for the top 3 scorers in each class. That's confirmed. I've got word of that officially from somebody higher up the chain than me at RCI. So if you do want to get your hands on an RCI trophy, iRacing is the place to be for that one. And tonight, as I got home through the door, I realized the Ginetta Cup is back for season 3. That's beginning on March 3rd. So Deutschland Masters ends as the new Ginetta Cup begins, and Callum shall not be with me in the box. He will be driving, and it is a very popular series, so if you do want to get your name down for that one, get it done sooner rather than later to avoid missing out. Again, a big thank you to everybody that's watched along at home, whether you're lurking, whether you've been here since the beginning of the stream, or you're watching back, as I know a lot of drivers do. Thank you very much indeed for all of your support, whether you've liked, subscribed, used your Prime membership with us, or, subscribed to us over on Twitch. We thank you very much indeed. We are aiming, I think, for 500 followers on Twitch. So if you haven't already, head on over, drop us a follow. Will be much appreciated. And again, all of our partners been revolving round in the bottom left-hand side of the screen. AK Esports, Coach Dave Delta, Greenman Gaming, IMB Raceware, Moser Racing, and of course, Motorsport UK Esports Recommended Community Badge. It's a very prestigious thing to have for a racing community. We'd like to thank you very much for joining us tonight. Of course, the next time you can find us on RCI TV will be on Saturday for the 6-hour esports final. No, being corrected actually, Friday, sorry. Forgot about Le Mans Ultimate. In my ear, joined Jesse and I assume Katrina, as the season has been following that pattern along the way. Ted Edwards bringing you all the pictures from behind the scenes as well. Don't forget that. Friday, Saturday, again, 3 broadcasts this week, hopefully, here on RCI TV. Tonight, Friday and Saturday. So we're absolutely spoiling you on this one. But from myself, John Dalton, from Callum Kerrigan alongside me, and from Jesse Lee behind the cameras, and of course not forgetting all of our live stewards. Thank you very much for joining us tonight on RCI TV. We hope you have a wonderful rest of the week, and we hope to see you again on Friday for more Le Mans Ultimate action. Take care.
You ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Get behind the wheel, let's go. Grip the road, feel the flow. Thunder roaring, steel alive. Live this dream and drive. Tires burning with gasoline. Push the limits, chasing green. One shot, don't slow, go on, we'll take control. Engines scream alive tonight. Blazing past the red line. Outrun the night, won't lose this fight. Follow the road, red line for show. We're chasing taillights, don't let go. Under the stars, we'll go so far. This is who we are. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. We're chasing taillights. The miles they fade, but they don't die. Faster now, the hours fly by. Sweat and gears, hearts in sync. On the edge, on the brink. Clock ticks down, stakes are high. One mistake, we kiss us goodbye. Don't slow down, we're not done. Finish line for the strong ones. Engines scream alive tonight. Blazing past the red line. Outrun the night, won't lose this fight. Follow the road, red line for show. We're chasing taillights, don't let go. Under the stars, we'll go so far. This is who we are. Chasing taillights. We're chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. We're chasing taillights. Feel the rush, see the goal. Every second, take control. The world blurs, time won't wait. We rise, we fight, we accelerate. 3, 2,